In terms of Kelly Slater, he talks about body work a lot.
Like getting massages and whatnot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He talks about 2 books that he recommended that listeners may or may not want to get: The Prophet by Khalil Gibran and The Tao of Sexual Health and Longevity by Daniel Reed.
Tao. I'm gonna correct you right now just so listeners don't have to.
And Kelly did, by the way, call it Tao as well.
Good.
But I still catch myself getting it wrong. He would be horrified to be a 16-year-old surfer coming up now because the level is just so high.
That's true. I mean, what do you do?
He said, great question. And he answered it by saying, you skate. If I had to make any recommendation to a 16-year-old, skate all the time, skateboard.
That's a great thing to say, Kelly Slater.
Yeah. And he raved over and over about Jackson Dorian.
Loves Jackson.
Which is his godson. It came up often about, well, you know what? Jackson is doing these things right, basically.
Do you think that Kelly is a father. Do you think that Kelly ever considers, oh man, look at how fun Jackson is? I don't know, Shane and Jackson's relationship always seems, at least from through the filter of social media, seems pretty wonderful, always traveling and doing their thing. Do you think Kelly thinks, I would sure like and also not even a boy, Josh and Sierra also are, I feel, a flip side to Jackson and Shane, right? Like Josh and Sierra Kerr, traveling the world, having fun, blowing minds, etc. Do you think Kelly ever pauses and says, that looks really fun? I blew it by either not having another child or I should have another child.
That would be obviously for Kelly to answer. I'm sure every parent has regrets for ways that they wish that they would have parented differently. I think Kelly clearly chose to pursue multiple world titles when both Josh Kerr and Shane Dorian kind of never went for it with that same level of vigor and like reckless abandon. So they waited. They also waited till later in life to have kids. I feel like both those guys waited until they were off tour to do that thing in their life. Kelly's still on tour. So I would be shocked if he decided to have kids at this point in life or whenever he chooses to get off tour. I'd be shocked if he decided to have kids again. Yeah. I mean, his girlfriend's young.
His girlfriend's very young.
I would imagine. And if she wanted to have kids, I have no idea whether she does or whether she doesn't, but I'd be shocked if they chose that life path at this point.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I would be shocked. I'd be surprised if they chose it, but
yeah,
I don't know. Like you would, I have no idea what's inside Kelly's brain. One would think Kelly would be looking around at the landscape and thinking, oh, that not only looks more enjoyable than what I'm doing, he must, but it's also more valuable. Like what? Being the oldest man ever on tour, like who cares at some point? So
a listener emailed me or DM'd me. I wish that I knew exactly who it was so I could pull it up and read it. They basically said, you guys, Kelly Slater comes up at least twice per podcast. Sure. You guys mention him, whether or not he's in the news. Like he just always comes up.
Always.
And they said, so my question is, would surfing be better or worse if Kelly retired? And I said, I'm not even really going to answer that question. But what I will say is Kelly's the only one who doesn't realize that he should have retired. Like you just said, there's no, a big reward for being the oldest guy on tour who's been constantly beaten. Like when was the last time he won a world title? When was the last time he even won a contest? 5 years ago?
When was the last time he really properly won a heat?
Right, exactly. So being kind of pushed off tour eventually isn't the most dignified way to go out, but that's not really even the point. The point is there's other things in life. Thinking that chasing a world title or even being on tour is a sustainable lifestyle is a fallacy. And Kelly's the only one who has lived in that fallacy for, by the way, now a decade too long, probably. So to answer your kind of other question is, hey dude, other people want your time and attention. And it's okay to mature to the level that you're doing things for other people, not just for yourself. And so it's surprising to me that everybody else has recognized, meaning Josh Kerr, meaning Shane Dorian, meaning all these other people have recognized that. But everybody else, meaning also these pundits like yourself and myself who are commentating on it from 5 steps removed, going, hey, buddy, nobody cares anymore about your pursuit for a world title. And you probably, whether it's Kalani or anybody else in his life, like there's probably these other people, your businesses, Perps, Outer Known, the Wave Pool, probably want your undivided attention. And it's okay to give those things to those people, because in your 40s and 50s, you might get gratification out of doing things for other people, you know? Ooh. And so I still, despite me saying kind of I fell in love with him through his Tim Ferriss interview, I think that there's still things that questions that I have for him, or things that I would expect him to pursue, like as a 45-year-old or 46-year-old or whatever he is, you know? So does that answer your question, Chaz?
It does. Okay. It does. I mean, and to the DMers point, I suppose, like, I don't know if professional surfing would be better or worse without Kelly Slater. Like, I guess everything is worse, but I mean, I love the fact that he exists. It gives us something to endlessly dissect, because very few, Kelly as a person is interesting. Interesting people are, for me, super fun to perpetually dissect. So I'm super thankful for Kelly as just existing, just to dissect him.
Yeah. And so this Tim Ferriss interview, I highly recommend people listen to, including yourself.
Not gonna do it.
You're only hurting yourself. I enjoyed every minute of it. Like, I enjoyed just hearing Kelly actually open up, and Kelly is far from perfect.
Sure.
And the problem is that whenever we discuss him critically, people get angry at us, or we get hate mail or whatever, because people think that he's perfect. You know, like, listeners aren't willing to hear any of the flaws that maybe you and I rightly or wrongly analyze. And so listening to it, he's not perfect, but I enjoy hearing Kelly give kind of raw, candid Kelly. It's great. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Do you want to move on from that?
Let's do.